Well, hello everybody. My name is James Raffin, and I am absolutely delighted that you've been able to join us for a presentation that I hope will take you into the art, science, and magic of exploration here at Exploration Central. Now, a lot of people ask, mostly my family, where's Jimbo? And the answer over the last 40 or 50 years has been, well, he's somewhere on the planet chasing a dream somewhere, and he'll be home soon. But I have asked a lot of questions. I have had the great privilege in my life to have had parents who supported me, families who've supported me, to go and find answers in faraway places. And that's what I want to introduce you to now, because I think there may be explorers in our midst who are also asking questions. Like, have you ever wondered what it's like to sail across the Central Pacific Ocean in a Polynesian sailing canoe? Well, that's a question I could help you with sometime down the line. Have you ever wanted to go ice fishing through 2 meters of ice? Here's what that looks like. You get yourself an auger and a friend called Frank Apakowak or Epoch, and away you go. And you start drilling, and next thing you know, there's Frank's wife, Margaret Apakowak, with a great big lake trout. There's a lot going on there. That's way up on the Coronation Gulf. Actually, it's a freshwater lake. Not far from the Nunavut village of Kuluktuk. Have you ever wondered what kids do when they play outside at minus 40? Well, here's what they do in Kaktovik, Alaska, I believe it is. No, Shishmaref. And I love this because when the kids who lived in this house were coming home from school each day, you'll notice those are all different ages, those handprints on the wall. And that's just a little pattern, but that's just a little something you do when you live in a cold environment and you want to have a bit of fun. You ever wished you knew how to tie a Turk's head bracelet? We can help. You ever wanted to sleep in an igloo? Find out what it's like to live with Inuit and to bask in the light of a seal oil lamp or kudlik and to eat fresh, delicious, raw Arctic char. You ever wonder what a walrus's breath smells like? Maybe not. But if you have, there are ways to find out what a walrus's breath smells like. And this is a walrus haul out way up on Hudson Bay, not too far from Southampton Island. Oh, stinky. Yeah, well, that's what a walrus's breath smells like. Have you ever shared space with the largest living creature on planet Earth? Well, maybe not, but they're out there. It's called a blue whale. 2.5 school buses long, breathes air like we do, feeds its young with milk like we do. Very, very humbling and impressive beast. Have you ever listened to the heartbeat drum of an Inuit drummer like my friend Hikwak? If you stick with us in this presentation and in this set of activities in Exploration Central, you're going to meet Hikwak, find out a little bit of his life story. Have you ever wondered what it was like to play Inuit games? In particular, I wondered what a ayagak is. Well, you've come to the right place. You ever met a polar bear? I met a couple of polar bears. That's in Reykjavik, Iceland. And those were Finlandic polar bears who'd come to add a conservation perspective at a meeting of the Arctic Circle. So there are those kind of polar bears that you can find at Central Casting or Costumes R Us. Then there are these polar bears. Ooh. My latest book, I make my living mostly as a writer, but my latest book is all about Nanu, Nanurjuk, the bear-spirited one, and there she is from the cover of that book. Essentially what I'm asking you have you ever asked any questions and gone to seek the answers? Because if you have done that, and I bet you have, you're probably already an explorer that comes from the original Latin explorare, I think it is, meaning to search out. That's what this presentation and these activities, 4 different activities that are part of Exploration Central, are going to invite you to add to your life if you so choose. Who's this guy who's asking you to ask questions and chase the answers? Well, it's me. And that's what I've been doing all of my life. And some people have noticed, but mostly what I've been doing is living a life that my mom and dad set up. I mean, my dad was in the Navy. He was a surgeon lieutenant in the British Navy. And after World War II, he had friends, Navy friends, in South Africa, Australia, and Canada. And he and my mom, who was a midwife in Scotland, knew that they wanted to leave the United Kingdom. And the 3 friends in those 3 different countries from the Navy, my dad's Navy friends, could provide a kind of a beachhead or a place to get started in a new country. And for some reason, Australia was ruled out. But our family story is that my mom and dad got on a boat in Liverpool, England. They flipped a coin. Well, they'd already flipped the coin, and it was what it was. It was heads. And I became a Canadian, an accidental Canadian. And, you know, it's always made me wonder. They say that as the nest, so grows the bird, meaning you're shaped by the place you grew up. I've often wondered who my 3 sisters and I would have been if we'd grown up in South Africa. But it was what it was. My mom and dad chose Canada, and that's me in the Mighty Speed River in Guelph, Ontario, beginning my explorations about 60 years ago. And I mean, I do have a fair amount of book learning. It's important. I graduated with distinction from Mother Goose Nursery School. Never graduated with distinction again. But most of what I know has come, it's learning that's come in through the palms of my hands, through the seat of my pants, through the soles of my feet. And a lot of that has happened as a result of travels by this vessel here. Now, not every, I think that's beautiful. Maybe you don't, but early journeys with Boy Scouts and at day camps in Guelph, and eventually led to more explorations by canoe, and that has led to a lifetime of poking around this country of which I'm an accidental citizen. And I want to invite you into that process today. My process, I mean, I was a teacher for quite a while. I still am a teacher in a way, but most of what I do is write books. And I've written a number of books over my life, mostly about the relationship between people and the places they live. My latest book, called Ice Walker, I mentioned, is a bit of a departure. That's actually a portrait of humanity in 36 months in the life of a female polar bear on Hudson Bay. It's called Ice Walker. I'd love for you to get it, read it. But this session at Exploration Central about the art, science, and magic of exploration is not really about that, although the book is a product of my life of exploration. But what I want to do, maybe I'll just come back here for a second. I want you to look at this little hoop. And I'm just showing it to you to create a circle, because at its core, exploration is a very simple process. Every one of us lives in a circle like this of things we know inside here. And beyond that, out here, is stuff we don't know. And exploration, the impulse to explore, simply involves asking questions that take you over that margin. And that does a couple of things. with any luck at all, it gets you some answers, but it also may increase the size of your circle. So let's just flip back, and I want to just show you that your things you know, and it doesn't matter who you are or where you are, the things you know are in that little circle. And of course, beyond that is stuff you don't know. And here we go. If you want to explore, you need to get beyond what you know. Now, interestingly, in the very, very early maps that people created, which are beautiful works of art, there was a feature of those maps that had creatures in the places that people didn't know very much. And quite often in those places, it was either written in the language of the day. Here, I think it's in Latin, but it used to say, and it does say on those early maps, there be dragons or here be dragons. And I love old maps because quite often there are these beautiful drawings of pretty scary creatures out there in the part of the map that is unknown. And I just want to tell you, I have spent most of my life on that part of the map, and I've met some fantastic monsters. Dragons, fire-breathing dragons. And if I haven't met them, I've certainly looked for them, or I've looked up their address or found their tracks. But every single one of the dragons, of the monsters that I've met, turned out to be, in most cases, pretty nice people. You know, they had things to teach me. That guy in the middle there, I met him up in a little place called Lutzelke, which is a Chippewan village on Great Slave Lake. And one of the things he taught me was the only thing, and he believes this to his core, the only thing we own is time. That's a pretty cool lesson. But I had to go all the way up to Great Slave Lake and have the generosity of a village of Chippewan people to let me know that. But there are dragons that are in mythology, there are dragons on maps, and they're just essentially things we don't know. But that defines for us, it doesn't matter when in your life. So babies, when you were a baby, your circle of stuff you knew was your crib, your mom's breast probably. As you grew up a little bit, things started to, your circle got a little bit bigger of things you knew. As you got older, your confidence probably grew. And instead of just relating to your mom and dad, you probably started relating to people. Maybe you're doing that now and circumstances outside. But everybody lives in a circle of things we know that travels with us. The circle might get bigger and bigger and bigger. As you get older, maybe it gets smaller. I don't know. But exploration at its core, and that's what we want to do in 4 different activities that I hope will allow you to learn some new things. I want to just look at the process of exploration, and it doesn't matter what the tools of the trade are. They could be shovels or pens or a sextant or what do we got there? A painter's palette, a pair of geologist's boots, a spacesuit, a compass, a microphone, a stethoscope, a crash helmet, a transit, a microscope, a drawing table, a rope, a needle and thread, a hockey stick. It doesn't matter. You can explore in any realm at all. And that's what makes exploration, the idea of exploration, so wonderful. If you look at that edge of the circle between the known and the unknown, the impulse to explore, and I think this just comes with being a human being, has to do with taking the chance to cross into things you don't know. And sometimes, you know, the risk of doing that, the uncertainty involved, you think you might get hurt or you might get lost, those kinds of things might cause you to be a little bit scared about doing that. And I can tell you right now that I'm still scared when I leave home because I'm not sure what's going on. But I've also learned that hanging on to that fear as you go forward is probably your best insurance against getting hurt or getting into things that you shouldn't be into, because you can always use it as a kind of a protection. But I also know that sometimes that fear goes away when you realize, when you look the dragon in the face and you realize that they have things to teach you and things to say. That impulse to explore really is something that needs support, and it needs other things. It needs, you need to be curious, of course, to ask questions. And sometimes curiosity is encouraged by your teachers and your parents. Sometimes it's discouraged if you're being too curious, but you've got to find a balance. You need skills to leave home. You need to know how to stay dry when it's wet. You need to know how to put Band-Aids on when you cut yourself. You need to know how to navigate. You need equipment. You need to know about compasses. But at its core, you can explore sitting in your own bedroom if you're interested in finding answers. But sometimes you need helpers, people who may have explored before or gone before. And sometimes those helpers are people who are older and who've learned a lot from the years, and you may want to seek out older people who have wisdom. I know they're a pain sometimes, but they do know stuff that you don't. They've made the same mistakes you're about to make, and having the freedom to make the mistake is a wonderful thing, and sometimes that's the best thing a parent can do. But other times, if you ask for help, us old people, we'd be glad to give it to you. You need resilience. You need to be able to get up when you fall down. You need knowledge, and sometimes that comes from a book, or as I showed you in the beginning, sometimes that comes from just getting out there. You need patience. You need to be able to wait. You need to be able to be good and sit and listen and just wait for things to happen, because sometimes pushing things to happen doesn't bring the best out of anybody. You need humility. You need to know that nobody knows everything. Nobody can know everything, and that the best thing to do is to give your own self the benefit of the doubt by saying, I'm just not sure that I know enough about that, so I'm going to go and listen very carefully to somebody who I think does. You need luck. Everybody needs luck. And you also need pluck, which is sort of it's not the same as being lucky. Being plucky has to do with having a little bit of chutzpah, a little bit of get up and go, to go a little bit beyond from time to time, and then you'll be a great explorer. So what I want to do is to introduce you to the resource staff here at Exploration Central, and then invite you to get a kit of exploration craft materials from your teacher or your library. You can get more on that from Science Rendezvous. But I want to introduce you to the kinds of things that are going to happen here at Exploration Central, and invite you to participate. So we've got 4 resource people. There's Deb St. Amant, who is the Elder in Residence at the Queen's University Faculty of Education, and she's of Métis and Ojibwa descent, and she's going to help us with a project that I'll show you later. But she's a new friend. I just met her through this project, this Exploration Central project, and I'll tell you a bit more about her as we go. So Deb is going to be with us. Chuck Commanda is an Algonquin knowledge keeper from Kitigan-Zibi up north of Ottawa, but he's a master bark canoe maker, and he's going to help us talk about birch bark and learn about birch bark, because that's probably one of the oldest building materials around, one of the most amazing materials. But I'm so glad to have him on our staff here. There's my friend Robert Chisnell, who loves knots and climbing, tying things up more than anybody I know. And in fact, he's so good at it, he's called upon, he's a world authority on knots and knotting, and he actually just spends time as an expert witness in court, if you can believe it. But he's along to help us with a rope project that we're going to work on. And finally, there's Hikwak. You already heard him drum, David Serkwak. He's an Inuit elder who's an old friend of mine, and I'll tell you more about him. But with that resource team, what we're about to do is to invite you, and it doesn't really matter what order you do things in, but Deb's going to help us with what we're calling a bag of possibles, which every explorer should have. Chuck's going to help us making what I hope will be a beautiful birch bark bracelet. You'll learn how to manipulate the birch bark. You'll learn about the birch bark. Rob's going to help us with making my favorite knot of all time. It's a Turk's head. It's a decorative knot. It's a useful knot, but Rob's going to talk ropes, and then we're going to do that. And finally, and it doesn't have to be in this order, Hikwak, who loves Inuit games, is going to help us make an ayagak. You could say that, well, we'll say it again. But those 4 resource people are going to be with us through this set of activities, and we'd love for you to help us participate. So just a bit of housekeeping here. The Exploration Central Directory, which you will find on the Science Rendezvous website, has this main presentation, so you've found it that far, but then color-coded in each of the attached folders, there's one folder for each activity. There's a folder for the Turk's Head bracelet, there's a folder for the ayagak, there's a folder for the birch bark bracelets, and a folder for the bag of possibles. And in each of those folders, you will see there's talking about the activity, and that's with the resource person. So with the Turk's Head, it'll be Rob Chisnell. With the ayagak, it'll be Hikwak. And with the birch bark bracelet, it'll be Chuck Amanda. And with the bag of possibles, it'll be Deb St. Amant. So there'll be a video, and they're between 20 and 30 minutes to learn a bit about the context of the activity in the background. Then there's a video that's really just a how-to video that's a bit shorter, and it will help you make your own bag of possibles and your own Turk's Head bracelet, your own birch bark bracelet, and your own ayagak from the kit of supplies that we have. The only little addition, there's a written instruction, a PDF of the written instructions, and that's really just to support. The main instruction video is called Making an ayagak. But there is a sketch of written instructions. And the only extra, and it's a wonderful extra, is that while I was talking to Hikwak on Zoom, he told something of his life story, and I just couldn't resist. So it's in as a sort of a bonus video in the ayagak. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, mums and dads, dogs and cats, good morning, good evening, good night. I hope you enjoy these activities here at Exploration Central. I hope you'll keep in touch. I know we've got a Q&A that's coming up, and there's a lot going on at Exploration Central, but a lot going on at Science Rendezvous. So there ends the art, science, and magic of exploration presentation. I really hope you enjoy exploring your crafts, and I look forward to seeing people around with some of the products of your travels, and I look forward to seeing you out on the trail. That's it for now. This is James Raffin signing off temporarily, saying lovely to have you with us, and happy exploring. Happy exploring.